Hello and welcome to Schwa Effortless Learning. Today's lesson is on modals. As we know, modals are the helping verbs or the auxiliary verbs which help the main verb to realize its meaning. Now, all helping verbs do the same thing, help the main verb realize its meaning. Then what is the difference between other auxiliary verbs and the modals? Well, as the name suggests, modals talk about the situation in which the main action is occurring. And by the main situation, we can understand the mood, the perception, the ideas, the point of view, and the attitude of the speaker or the doer of the action. The main type of modals are may, might, can, could, should, shall, will, ought to, need, dare, etc. To understand modals in a better way with the help of some examples. You must go to the concert tomorrow. You should go to the concert tomorrow. You ought to go to the concert tomorrow. You will go to the concert tomorrow. So all these sentences, they all are talking about going to a concert the following day. But here I have used different other modals. You should go, as if I'm suggesting someone that person should go to the concert. You ought to go, as if it is more of I'm putting more importance in going to in the action of going to the concert. You must go. It is my insistence. But here the person who's supposed to go has a say in it. And you will go to the concert tomorrow. I'm asserting my wish. I'm asserting what I want from the person who's supposed to do the work. So here we can see that with the usage of different modals, we are conveying a different attitude towards the action. And hence these modals help us to understand the attitude or the situation of the action in a much better way. Let's first start with the basic modals shall and will. We know that shall and will are the indicators of future time, and they also lend a degree of certainty towards the action. But there is a difference. When we use shall with the first person, I and we, it talks about no emphasis. It talks about free will. But with second and third person, it is about emphasis. Similarly with will talks about emphasis all the time. So if I say you will go there, so there is no other way that person or you have to go there. Now shall is very important because shall is the word which is used in legal documents, and it gives an idea of formality. Also, shall is used to indicate about permission. For example, shall we go there? So here with shall, I'm seeking for permission that shall we go there? The other person has all the liberty to say yes or no. Shall can also be used as a polite question or polite offer. For example, shall I get you a glass of water, or shall I get you a taxi? So here I'm asking very politely, and I'm offering you very politely whether I should get you a glass of water or I should call for a taxi for you. So here shall is about politeness. You must have observed that in government documents or in the documents in notices where some rules are conveyed, there shall is used. Shall is used to indicate an obligation when it is in a formal setting. Now let's come to will. We know that will is about future, and since future time is all about predictions, but will lends to a degree of more certainty here. Now, like shall does not emphasize for the first person, and will does not emphasize for the second and third person. So when we have to say about something about future with emphasis, for first person we would use will, and for the second and third person we can use shall to indicate the emphasis. For example, I will go there. So here I am emphasizing on the fact that there is a greater level of certainty of me going to a place. But you shall go there and they shall go there indicates that the possibility of you and they going to some place is much more prevalent. Hence, will gives the degree of certainty to the first person, and shall gives the same thing to the second and third person. Will also talks about some decision or willingness. For example, we will learn English grammar in this channel. So here we have decided, and it's our wish to continue learning about English grammar through this channel. Will also confirms about some formal announcement of future or some facts that is definitely going to happen in future time. For example, tomorrow the Prime Minister of India would inaugurate the new bridge. So this is a fact and this is a formal announcement, and with the help of will, we are lending an air of certainty towards the future action. Now let's come to the past form of the shall and will. Shall, past form is should, and would is the past form of will. Other than this fact, they also have various other rules. Now would talks about past habit or past characteristics. For example, when I was a child, I would practice singing for hours together. So this was my past habit or my past characteristics. Similarly, with would, we can talk about some refusal that happened in past. For example, I would never drink milk when I was a child. I would never drink milk. Other than talking about past, would is a very good way of giving an air of very other than talking about past, would is a very good way of giving an air of very much politeness to the work. For example, would you please accompany me? So here when I am saying would, it makes it very, very polite. So remember, whenever you are asking someone very politely, start with would. It gives a very good impression. Other than all these things, would also has a very unique function. Would actually works also as a conditional. By conditional we mean as a condition. If this, then that. That is condition. So we can use would as a conditional. For example, you would pass the exam if you study. So would is talking about future time. So if you study now, you would pass the exam. Now let's come to should. Should, as we discussed in the very beginning of the lesson, you should go to the concert tomorrow. So here I am giving you an idea that it is your obligation, it is your duty to go. So should talks about obligation. Then should also talks about some probability. For example, the sky is cloudy, it should rain. So that means should gives an air of prediction, and also should is doing some logical deduction. So since the sky is cloudy, it should rain. That is the logical deduction of the clouds in the sky. Also, should is very much used to indicate some advice or some suggestion. For example, you should finish your homework before going out. You should. I'm giving you a suggestion. I'm giving you an advice which would be beneficial for you. Also, like would, should also serves as a conditional. But here, the conditional is only for the first person, and it gives an idea that it is a very formal and very polite formal conditional for the first person. That is where we use should. For example, I should be very happy if I could help you. So here, I should be very happy if I can help you, or if I could help you. So here, it's extremely formal, giving an idea that, oh, I'm being so very polite. And of course, it's conditional, if, then that. So that's how we use shall, should, will and would in sentences. Now let's take can and could. So can and could both talk about some ability. So while can is talking about an ability of the present time, could is talking about an ability of past. For example, I can dance well, but when I was a child, I could sing as well. Now I cannot. So at present, I have lost my ability of singing, but I have gained the ability of dancing. However, in past, I had the ability of singing as well. So here can and could both talk about possibility or some ability or some talent. Both can and could is very perceptive. They think that the answer they get would always be affirmative. At least they try to think. So when you ask for a permission using can or could, the general idea is that you might get a yes for an answer. For example, can you lend me your pen? So it's just, I'm sure that you can. I'm sure you can. And similarly could. Although could is much more polite, and also could also talks about some past action, like so if I did not have a pen in the examination hall, could you lend me one? So I'm talking about in hypothetical sense, also in past, and I'm asking my friend if this situation would have happened, could you lend me that? And I'm assuming that the answer might be a yes. So the chances of getting yes as an answer is much higher. So that's why can or could is much more, they take things a little for granted a little, and they expect a yes as an answer. That is why when we use can or could to make a request or offer help or offer a suggestion, we assume that there is a greater chance of getting yes as an answer. For example, can you help me? Or can I say something? So here, can I say something? Or you should have rather use some word which talks about that there might be a chance that you are not allowed to speak. But here, when I use can, so that means I am assuming that there is a greater chance that I would be allowed to speak. So when I say can I say something, I'm assuming that I would be allowed to speak. Similarly, can I help you? I'm assuming that my generous offer of helping out someone would be very much appreciated. Now let's come to may and might. May and might both are used in a much formal way. So while may is talking about some possibility, might is also talking about some possibility, but may has a greater chance for it to happen. For example, the sky is cloudy and it looks very dark, so it may rain. So the possibility of rain is much higher. The weather these days is not very good. It might rain. So might is giving a very weak possibility. May gives a strong possibility. Might is giving a weak possibility, and both are used in a formal setting. While can is talking about some permission, and with can we suggest that I'm getting yes as an answer, but may, since it's more formal and more polite, it also takes into consideration that my request might, also takes into consideration that my request might not always be entertained. So here, may I go out please? So here I'm asking for a permission to go out, but my request might not have been entertained. Also, we use may to convey prayers or blessings, like, oh, may God bless you. So here may is giving an air of formality, and it is talking about wish and prayer as well. Now must. Must talks about an obligation or a very... Now let's come to must. Must talks about an obligation or a very strong compulsion. For example, you must go to the concert tomorrow. So I'm giving you much more and more emphasis on your action to go, and it is sort of a compulsory, and it's a very strong obligation. And in all these cases we use must. Also, we use must to talk about some action that needs to be happen. That needs to happen. And by the way, need is also another modal. So here must talks about some action that is the need of the hour. For example, India must implement the NEP 2020 all across the country. So here India needs to take this particular action, and with must I'm conveying that this is the need of the hour. Now ought to. Ought to gives an idea about some morality. So when I say you ought to obey your parents, so here ought to means that it is my moral duty, it is my moral obligation to obey my parents. We ought to love our country, we ought to protect our country. So here it is our moral responsibility to protect our country, to love our country, to think about its prosperity. Also, ought to talks about something very certain, and it is not about the certainty of the action that is happening, it is the certainty of logical deduction. For example, they have left home half an hour back, so they ought to reach here within next 10 minutes. So here I'm making a logical deduction, and there is a very, very high chance of that action to be fulfilled within my 10 minutes. So here I'm making a very good logical deduction, and I'm certain about my deduction. Now, while explaining about should, I also use the modal need. And need, of course, we get the idea that need talks about some obligation. For example, you need to go there. So there is a necessity for you at that particular place. So you need to go there. That is how we use need in English modal scenario. So that is all for today. Do let me know what are your questions or suggestions in the comment section below. So like, share, comment and subscribe. Thank you.